Okay, everybody, it's 8 a.m. and I'll call the meeting of the Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District to order. So in room, we have Commissioners Clark, Havel, Freeze, Paltz, Lankella, and Murphy. And then virtual so far, we have Commissioners Patrick Lytle and Ezra Meyer. And is Beth on yet? No, okay, Beth is supposed to be joining virtually, so give everybody a heads up on that. Cassie, could you go through the guidance, please? Well, welcome to all of our guests here today. Yeah, okay.
Good morning, Commissioners, members of the public, and staff. To help us have a smooth meeting, I'm going to review just a few decorum rules for all. While the Commission and staff are in person, we are still offering a Zoom option so members of the public can attend. If you are attending virtually and would like to speak, you can do so during appearances by the public. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and streamed live on YouTube, and the public chat has been disabled, but you can still send messages to the host if need be. Finally, Commissioners, please use your microphones while speaking and make sure your voice is directed towards the mic. When you're not speaking, please ensure your mic is off so others can utilize the mics. And as a reminder, only 3 of the table mics can be live at a time. Also, please state your name before speaking for those who may be joining us via Zoom. Those are the decorum rules of the District Commission. Thank you for following them, and let's have a great meeting.
Okay, thank you, Cassie. Any announcements? None? Okay, so Chad Peterson is going to introduce Justin Boyd and then Nathan Wickland, and then after him, Mike Schumann is going to introduce Crystal Clark.
Okay, good morning. Chad Peterson, Facilities Maintenance Supervisor. To my left immediately is Justin Boyd. Justin has work experience with remodeling, concrete, insulation, and water infiltration. He has a wide range of hobbies and interests. Loves to do anything outdoors. Fishing, hunting, and camping are all of the above that are included in that. He'll be a great addition to our work group, dealing with anything with our building seepages and things that we're having at the moment. But I'd like you to welcome Justin. Nathan Wickland, he is our facilities maintenance trainee. Nathan grew up on a dairy farm in Burnett, Wisconsin, no stranger to hard work. In his free time, he enjoys watching Wisconsin sports, hunting, and fishing. He is really looking forward to this opportunity that he is given at the district. Can't wait to make the most of it, and we feel he'll be a great addition to our work group. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, gentlemen.
Us as the asset or asset management comes to us with over 10 years of experience in analyzing complex data sets and technical outside of work, Crystal, live music, camping, and wellness. Already started our onboarding with us about a week in. Already.
Okay, any appearances by the public? Don't see anybody? Okay, we'll move on then. We've got the consent calendar, the approval of the minutes from the last meeting, January 15th, cash statement, operating fund, and then a few sanitary sewer extension plans, Aldi's in Verona, reconstruction in Wanakee, and Fordham Avenue relief sewer in Madison. Do we have any questions on any of the items before we get a motion? Patrick, you have your hand up?
Thank you, Commissioner Lytle. I'll just note that it's probably appropriate for me to abstain from the City of Verona item due to my role on the City Council there.
Okay. So when we vote, Commissioner Lytle will be abstaining from the Aldi. So, anybody else? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
Commissioner Clark, motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Clark, second by,
Commissioner Freeze?
second by Commissioner Freeze, just beat Commissioner Murphy. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, and then please record that, Commissioner Lytle abstained on the Aldi vote. Okay. Let's see, we'll take us to topics. So we got Seth McClure back up today, our second of four.
Good morning, Commissioners. I think Eric's going to start us off, right?
Thank you, Eric Dundee, Executive Director. As we get through here to the next slide, just a quick reminder. This is going to feel like a broken record here for a few more meetings as we go through. But the idea is we're going to go one by one through the performance areas in the strategic plan developed by myself and staff. As we go through, today is infrastructure reliability, and then we'll have after that public trust and regulatory compliance. One quick note is on the financial capacity and resilience performance area. Based on the discussion from the last commission meeting, the finance committee did have a discussion on those performance areas, or the performance area and the KPIs. So we do have, as staff, some work to do to get back to the finance committee in March on that. So with that, I'm going to let Seth take it away.
Thank you, Eric. Just to review, very briefly, these key performance indicators were vetted by the management of the district. What we're seeing here is a group of industry standard key performance indicators that have been whittled down to a few leading contenders. And I just wanted to reiterate that what we are looking at here is not something new or something that we've invented, but that's been vetted by many other utilities and, as we discussed last time, are key points of comparison between ourselves and other entities. And so what we want to talk about today is the performance area of infrastructure reliability. We require that our physical and technological infrastructure perform at a very high level. And what that means in practice is that our critical assets cannot fail faster, and our financial resources and maintenance capabilities can repair or replace them. Essentially, what we are trying to do is balance out the performance of our infrastructure with our financial capabilities. And the job of these KPIs, right, is how do we tell? How can we express that? How can we communicate that? What sorts of numbers give us information about the system that we can act on, right? And so, after the process, here are the three that we feel are good expressions of how our infrastructure is. The first one are planned maintenance measures. This is going to be expressed as a percent of maintenance, scheduled maintenance, or preventative maintenance completed on time, or as the ratio of planned maintenance hours to total maintenance hours. The reason being is that proactive maintenance prevents failures and extends asset life. I'm going to be using the analogy of a car many times during this presentation. You think about your regularly scheduled maintenance, how it can extend the life of the car, as opposed to simply driving a car until it needed to be repaired or you had to tow it somewhere. Preventative maintenance can be a much lower cost alternative to maintaining the level of performance of any given asset. We'll talk about our next steps with this one. Are any questions so far? Yeah.
Do you have a normal protocol for every asset as to how it has to be maintained and how often?
I can't speak to this in detail, but I know that generally speaking, when we bring a new asset into the system, we have a process called commissioning, and part of that is identifying preventative maintenance schedules, parts availability. There is a whole suite of information that Matt Schuman and Matt Rodenkirk deal with, and Crystal. And so a lot of that information is available, and so the answer to that is yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Commissioner Paltz.
Commissioner Pulp, Eric says I'm supposed to say that every time I talk. The second thing though, I don't plan maintenance hours by the total maintenance hours. That could have a flaw if your total maintenance hours goes up or down a lot. It might be better to do it planned maintenance versus, or maintenance hours versus budgeted or something, because what happens if you have a lot of work done that you didn't plan? All of a sudden your planned hours are different than your, something.
Yes, that is correct. You correctly point that out, that is a problem, but that actually is an important indicator, and that's actually something that we as a district have worked very hard on over the last couple of years, is defining what is an emergency, and there are some actually sort of good numbers, not just from wastewater, but other sorts of factories and kind of production systems at ratios that you're aiming for. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but you're always trying to keep that ratio within a certain level. Yeah, absolutely. It's a good point.
Okay, so I just want to use an example. We have the Theron sinkhole, in the force main, and so there's an awful lot of hours, not just our hours, but a lot of contractor hours too. So will contractor hours count? And then is it a certain point that Theron sinkhole switch from a maintenance project to kind of a general maintenance because you found, or was it always an emergency repair even though you found other things kind of, I remember, was up for original? So I'm just curious as to how all that factors in, because a lot of our emergency repairs are done by contractors.
Eric Dundee, Executive Director. So I do want to be careful here of scope creep. So yes, we do a lot of work at the district. We have construction projects. We have the big emergency management projects that we handle. The goal here is to be measuring our maintenance activities, like the maintenance group's work. One of the things that our maintenance manager has been working on over the last few years is working with our groups, our facility maintenance group, collection system, mechanical and electrical, to schedule compliance for planned work. So the idea is to try to get our brains away from everything's an emergency when we find out something's wrong and stick to the plan. And that's why this is pretty important for us, because if we're looking at planned maintenance hours versus total maintenance hours, and we find that only 50% of our planned hours is the ratio there, that means we have a lot of things we're doing that's an emergency, or we're not sticking to the schedule. So to get back to your point, the sinkhole project, or those big emergency projects, those tend to just turn into CIP, capital improvement projects, or big things that you can't really measure at that point. This is about us taking care of the assets that we have. Yeah, thank you.
So do you have a definition kind of as to how you, or is this going to be on a case-by-case basis that you make those decisions? Because it seems like it'd be something hard to define.
Our reliability process group and maintenance group have definitions for what this stuff is.
Okay, next, asset condition index. And here, I think it's helpful to recall the Nessie curve discussion from last meeting. The asset condition index is actually an element of that Nessie curve. And it sounds a little odd to use part of one indicator for another, but the asset condition index expresses something different. Last time we talked about the Nessie curve as a way to have a large picture of whether or not our investment in our assets was in line with our cash flow, right? This is different. What this is showing is what is the general condition of our assets, right? It provides a comprehensive view of overall infrastructure health and deterioration trends. What I didn't say in this slide is it expresses our level of risk. It's sort of like, what are we willing to live with here, right? You could have a perfect plant in perfect condition of every single asset, but that would be financially and probably practically infeasible. And so what we do is we say, well, what can we live with here, or what is appropriate for us to maintain our level of service at an acceptable level of cost, and our condition is reflective of those things. What this provides is a large overall view of the general condition of all of our plant and collection system assets. And that element then plays into the NESI curve, which is part of the one of the key performance indicators of financial performance area. Any questions on this one? Yes, sir. Commissioner Freed.
Yeah, hi. Thanks. So just on this, I just, in my head, I'm trying to visualize how this would be used. I get the idea. Is this everything all lumped into one basket, or are you going to break this out into what I would call subgroups, right? Because, like, say, gravity mains, force mains, plant infrastructure, you know, I'm gonna say you could probably come up with 5 or 6 functional categories that might, as opposed to just say, well, we'll throw it all in a basket and average it.
Absolutely. So that's a very good question. I think that remains to be seen, and I'll let Eric answer here also. But I would say the sort of 4 or 5 buckets or groups of assets is probably the most illustrative and still comprehensible to the general public. And so I think that, you know, what we want to do is have a quantitative way to discuss our sort of professional judgment, right? To say, like, how's the plant doing? Pretty good. But, well, what does that mean? Well, we have this list of numbers that's easily broken down into different categories, and we give ourselves like a sort of B+ on it, or what we, you know, a 3.8, or, you know, on a 5-point scale or something like that. I'll let Eric answer.
Yeah, Eric Dundee, Executive Director. So for us, yes, we will break this into pieces and we'll be evaluating it. But the idea for an overall district KPI is to take a look at everything that we have and figure out what we're doing, or what our score is there. So trying to pull the key performance indicator here up as high as possible as a total for the district that we can just measure with 1 point. Below that, of course, yes, we will use the word slice and dice it as much as we want to dig into it. But, yeah, we want to kind of hold the key performance indicator as high as possible just for a general look at what we're doing.
Okay, so we've got, Commissioner, we have 3 people. Oh, I thought you're, okay. Okay, so we have 2 people. We'll do Commissioner Lytle and Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you. Yeah, Commissioner Lytle, I know we want to avoid going into the weeds, but I was just curious, you reference a weighted average. So is this on a count basis or some kind of cost to replace basis? You know, a $500,000 pump that's in a poor condition is different than, you know, a small actuator somewhere that's in poor condition. Do you weight this based on any kind of replacement cost, or is it purely just counting the number of critical assets and averaging the score? Thank you.
Thank you. That's an excellent question. I don't. Go ahead. Yeah, we're not there yet. That's a very complicated question that I think involves like a lot of assumptions that will need to be clearly stated, and we sort of will generally agree on what that system is. We're sort of in the early stages. We have a first pass at this number, but you correctly point out that it's complicated, and I think I'll get to a slide later that says like we're probably a year out on something like this being, you know, very useful and being able to express that complexity. Thanks.
Okay, Ezra?
Thanks, Tom. Commissioner Meyer here. It turns out I was going to ask about weighted average as well, so all good. Thank you.
Okay. Move on, Seth.
Okay, 3. So this is a parallel KPI that deals with our IT and OT system availability. That technically our IT systems are part of our larger group of assets, but they are maintained, replaced, so differently and have their own standards, their own maintenance staff, if you will, then that they need to be tracked separately. And what we are looking at now is how available and reliable are those IT and OT systems. They're at this point deeply embedded in how we do almost everything, from managing finances to managing assets to our general operations of machinery as part of our SCADA system. And we'll get to sort of where we are with this in a moment, but what we are measuring here is the general reliability of our IT and OT system. And I can stop for questions here too. Or any.
Go ahead, Ezra.
I feel silly asking it, but I don't know what OT means, so I'm going to ask in case I'm not the only one.
Operational technology. So
Okay.
for us, that is our SCADA system or the operating system for treatment plant monitoring.
Thank you. I was assuming operations was the O there, but I wanted to be sure. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Last slide. Where we are with all of these KPIs. Operations reliability has developed a robust database as part of the Reliability-Centered Maintenance Program. The Reliability-Centered Maintenance Program was one of our first implementations after a lot of consulting work from various asset management companies that you've heard me talk about in the past. Matt Schumann has done a lot of work looking at the breakdown in our preventative maintenance hours over all maintenance hours, creating a system for the intake of various maintenance projects, et cetera, and the Operations Reliability Group is well down the road to developing this KPI. As we discussed, the second one, the Asset Condition Index, we're a bit far off of this. This is definitely within the realm of possibility. We have all the tools we need to develop this, but we are a ways out from a meaningful number, and also deciding on what that range is, and that acceptable range is an expression of our level of acceptable risk. And then finally, Bettina Culver, our IT manager, has done a lot of work in amassing an impressive amount and quality of data on IT usage, on functionality of different things, on tech support, all kinds of stuff. I think you've seen some work that she's done on this as well. What we are still trying to dial in on what some of the most meaningful numbers are to talk about asset availability and asset reliability and what the acceptable range is, what we can do in terms of the available staff time and that sort of stuff. And so I would say 2 of these KPIs are developing some kind of proof of concept stage, and another one is well on its way. But we have a solid framework, I think, for moving forward on all of these. Any questions? And that's it for this particular performance area.
Okay, could you go back to the prior slide, the one before you just last one?
Yes.
It had the IT/OT system.
Yeah, there we go.
The one prior to that. There. So we got you list ERP, EAM, and SCADA. Can you give me an idea of when, if you know when they were kind of put in or will be put in? and then what their life is?
So Eric Dundee, Executive Director. I will not have all the answers to the questions that you had, but for us, the idea here is to find out what the systems are that are at risk. Obviously, we knew our existing system, WHAM, that's just the system we have, has something we're using as an ERP, or as much as we can, and we're using it as an EAM, which is an Enterprise Asset Management Program. So for us, after going through the process of scoping, when we started the ERP, the Enterprise Resource, right? Planning. Enterprise Resource Plan, thank you. We found that we had to split it into two. And that's what happened with, we have a old system that's over 20 years old that we were kind of trying to use to fit everything into one box, splitting it out. And then SCADA system, obviously, we will keep continuing that. The point here is those are three of the ones that most people know about. We have many others, and we are trying to figure out how best to input data, collect the data, and report on the data. And that's everything from septage receiving, user charge data, all the things. And the only way for me specifically to work on this is to have a KPI that lets us build a work plan and a list that tells us what we have to do and when we can do which one next, type of thing. So the lifespan, though, unfortunately, I can't talk about.
Yeah, the reason I asked the question is, number one, they're all basically some type of technology that's generally changing rapidly. And I'm just curious as to, are we going to get hit like with a perfect storm of a bunch of these systems all of a sudden needing to be updated in 10 years or 5 years or something like that? And to the point, we know that ERP is very expensive, and for the others will be too. That's you don't have to answer it, but that's just something to bear in mind, is how all this stuff follows downstream in terms of when they have to be repaired or updated or whatever. Not just the systems, but everything else. All of a sudden, are you going to have you put so much money into an initial plan. It's like building your house is built, and then all of a sudden your air conditioning and heating system go at the same time. The water heat, everything starts failing within 2 or 3 years. The roof, and the next thing you know, you've got major expense. So.
Yeah, Eric Dundee, Executive Director. I'm actually going to tell you that's where we're at now. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but that is why this KPI is up here, because these systems break, and quite frequently. And our IT system and staff and our OT system staff are constantly trying to keep it going and moving. So I wouldn't call it a perfect storm, but we are definitely patching and putting things in order just to keep things going so we can get to the point of replacing them. We have a WHAM emergency system, we'll call it, when things go down, because when they go down, we have nothing. So we are where you wish we wouldn't be, but we're there already. So we're building an implementation plan.
Okay, thanks. Beth, you have a question?
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I have just a general kind of comment, I guess, on the KPIs, and it's just in general. Well, I think the infrastructure reliability is absolutely essential, and the KPIs look great as far as I can see. But what I don't see incorporated, and I'm still struggling with this, is to see where strategic infrastructure upgrades include state-of-the-art technology and increasing energy efficiency, where that is included in the strategic plan. And maybe it's kind of buried underneath all of this, but I just don't see that. So, Eric, if you could talk to that, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Eric Dundee, Executive Director. I'm actually going to answer this with hard truth. The only way to look at innovation technology and some of the goals on energy efficiency for us now in our financial climate is to do it as an opportunity when we're building or changing other infrastructure. So our liquid processing phase 2 project, we took the opportunity to have energy efficient equipment put in there, new processes, innovation in that way. I really feel strongly that for us, we still want to be innovators. We still want to lead the utility world, but we can't do it as standalone projects. We have so many needs and so much infrastructure that needs to be replaced and kept up with, you know, the fastest growing county in Wisconsin. So for me, Commissioner Bookland, you're not going to see a standalone KPI or performance area for that, because for me, to lead the district, it would be in constant conflict with all of the assets and work we need to get done. So my goal is to embed it and make it part of the opportunity as we replace things. Hopefully that helps.
That does help. But I'm still just wondering if there's some way we could build that into the KPIs as we consider new projects. Because I know I feel like you're already doing it. Like you said, as you look at new infrastructure and new technologies coming out, I just think we're already doing it. But it would be great to include that somehow in the KPIs so you get credit for it.
Yeah, just Commissioner Murphy, just to follow up on that comment, a suggestion maybe to consider is to include your response, Eric, to Beth's question somewhere in the description of our infrastructure reliability, the lead-in, not in the KPIs, but up above, and indicate that when we're looking at individual projects, developing plans for the treatment plant, that energy efficiency and innovation is, forward, and that's something that we'll always consider.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Okay. You're done. Anybody have anything else? Yeah, go ahead, Brad.
Do any of the KPIs deal with the capacity of the plant and its individual components to handle wastewater? In other words, we process X millions of gallons of wastewater a day. We do that quite well. We're not at any risk of not being able to handle that many millions of gallons a day, I hope, except when we get serious rainfall events. Is there anything that actually measures that?
Thank you. Yes, exactly. So in our condition index, for instance, on our collection system, this is just an example. Performance would be defined by, that would be one of the elements of its performance, is whether or not it can handle the capacity that we need, or various other elements of it. So yes, I would say that the predicted capacity is integral to many of these things and is explicit as part of it. It's also will be part of regulatory compliance. Like there are certain elements that we have to do by that. Thank you for the question and a chance to address that specifically, but yes.
Okay, I just have kind of, with the liquid processing that's being undertaken right now, and we use RPC to project our population, right? We still use them, and then we get the flows. Do you have an idea what, we've been at that, we've talked about this before, and I can't remember, but we're about 38 to 40 million gallons per day. What are you projecting in terms of peak average daily flow over the next, like, over your design period of, I don't know what your design period is 20 years?
Eric Dundee, Executive Director. I'm actually going to defer that question. We do have a capital projects update. Lisa Coleman will be presenting. Maybe this gives her enough time to pull the information, hint, hint, Lisa, and she can present that as part of that. So I'll defer to her.
Before we move on, one other suggestion. When we're using acronyms, especially during public presentations, I think it would be really helpful just to define all of them.
In the presentation itself, or like on the slides, you're saying, or verbally as well?
Well,
okay.
I think at least verbally.
Yeah. Okay.
But somewhere either on the slides or
duly noted.
Yeah. When we've got it says critical IT/OT system availability in the document, I think we should just define that stuff so that for not only commission members but others that are looking at these documents, questions will be answered.
Okay, anyone else? No, good. Okay, we'll move on then to the reports. Executive Director update. Eric?
Yeah, thank you. Eric Dundee, Executive Director. So 2 items today that are actually the Executive Director report, 1 item in there, and then the second item is actually B on your agenda there for the fourth quarter service charges. The first item I have is back in May 2025, we had a discussion about the district being involved in the carbon market. And so I'm back here to report that we have officially worked with a company named Verity to be part of the carbon market. The contract was finalized, and we're happy to announce that over 24,000 credits were issued, which means the district will be receiving a payment of about $120,000 for that. So just giving an update on that. Hopefully that's good news for all. And then the second thing, is there any questions on that before I go on? If not, we'll go to the fourth quarter service charges. So in your packet, we usually don't talk about this unless there's something of surprise or something of interest in there. So for the 2025 total service charges, we actually are $1.4 million below the forecast. As part of that, just talking about through it is, that's why we have a reserves policy. That's why we also know the way that we do our loadings and flows. It's a imperfect science. We do our best to project every year. We do have a couple slides if needed, if people have questions on what the parameters looked at, where the deficits come from, but then also a historical look at how our total service charges have went. So just open that up just in case there's questions.
Thanks for the information. One question is, how are we doing with expenses? Are we going to have a budget resolution or not?
I will go on record and say there is no budget resolution that's going to be needed.
Okay, so you don't need anything more on B. So we can move to the capital project update. Lisa Coleman?
Good morning. I'm here. Thank you. I was trying to dig around and find the information that was just requested with regard to liquid processing. So I think I got that quickly enough here. So hopefully everybody can hear me. I am Lisa Coleman, the engineering manager. I'm here today to provide an update on capital projects. I wish that I could be there in person with you. I had a little ski injury accident over New Year's, so I'm at home recuperating, unfortunately. All right, next slide, please. All right, so here's what I'm planning to talk about. This presentation has been updated to match what's in the 2026 CIP. And then as usual, I'm going to go through the projects that are either in planning, in design, or in construction. And then I'll do a short recap of 2025 as far as projects completed and bids received. And then finally, I'll briefly touch on a couple of project highlights. So I do want to call your attention though to a couple of materials in the packet. As we started doing last year, there's a brief report in there on budget and schedule with regard to the CIP. And this time the budget is reflective of a summary of all of 2025. So I'm not going to go through that in detail, but I just did want to point out that the unaudited numbers in there indicate that of the 44 million capital budget, we spent about 39 million, or about 88% last year. So as we discussed during the updates last year, we had a very productive year with lots of ongoing construction. So that number is reflective of that, as well as also the hard work of many at the district and our consultants and contractors as well. All right, next slide, please. All right, so starting with projects and planning, a little change that I want to note in this presentation that's a change from previous ones. For projects that are not started, I'm showing those with a gray square rather than a red one, sort of saving red to be indicative of a major issue or something like that with a project. So first, at the treatment plant, we have a couple of projects in planning. One is the laboratory remodel, for which we have just received the space needs study from the consultant. So construction on that is a few years out yet, so there'll be more info to come on that, obviously. For the biosolids facility plan, we expect to wrap up that facility plan in the middle of this year, and then we'll have more to report on that. The picture on the slide is actually from a technical memorandum with regard to that project, sort of looking at potential drying systems for biosolids. So lots of interesting information we're getting during that facility plan study. Next, we have interceptor projects. The first is some manhole rehabilitations that we are coordinating mainly with City of Madison projects. The second is a lining project that's not started yet. And then lastly, with pumping stations and force mains, we have a project listed there to install some platforms for better access to valves. And we anticipate beginning planning that later in the year. Next slide, please. All right. So next up is design projects. So again, the stoplight colors here are indicative of how it's going. So at the treatment plant, we have liquid processing phase 2. I'll pause here to answer the question from earlier before I forget to do so. So I looked it up just to refresh my memory what those numbers were. So with regard to the period that we're looking at, it is in fact required by DNR and facility plans. 20 years the period. This one, however, we looked out to 2050. Just thinking that it's going to take us a couple of years here to build the project. So by the time we're done, we're getting closer to 2030. So the design year we looked at for that detailed design was 2050. So in the year 2050, the annual average flow that we projected was 57 million gallons per day. So that's what the design is for, and that's the average. Then there's obviously, the peak considerations too, the peak hour wet weather, peak, instantaneous flow, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of numbers that sort of define that. So hopefully that answers the question. All right.
Thank you.
Yep, you bet. Okay, so liquid processing phase 2, that's on track. We do expect to receive 90% plans for that in February. For the dryer and seating modifications project, we're in the early stages of design for that. Showing that one as yellow, we are anticipating some increased costs for that. And you should expect to see a commission item, say in March, to increase the total project cost for that project. It is in the grand scheme, not a project, but I just wanted to mention that anyways. So that project is dealing with replacement of equipment and improvements in the dryer and seating system associated with the Ostara struvite process. There's a picture on the right that shows those dryers. We've also recently learned that Ostara won't be providing seed material for us anymore, so that kind of factors into the project as we're moving into further into the design of that as well. So again, expect to see a little more about that coming up. On to interceptors. The first is a lining project that is just upstream of pumping station 7 that we're now actively planning and working on. The second is related to some work along South Highway 51 at the Yahara River in McFarland. That's related to a DOT project. For that one, we need to relocate a large junction structure and replace some pipe that's basically in conflict with DOT's bridge and other things that they're doing there. So for that, our design is essentially complete, and we're working with DOT to bid that as part of their project in early summer. And then the third one listed there for interceptors is a lining project out near the airport that we are currently working on. All those are on track. The next two are the Nine Springs Valley projects. Phase 1 is just upstream of pumping station 11, and that's just south of the plant. And then phase 2 is along Highway 151, upstream of pumping station 12, near the area where we had the sinkhole in 2024. So phase 1 I'm showing as yellow as the route and alignment work and easements with a private landowner and Dane County are moving slower than we hoped, but we're considering to work through those. And then phase 2, that will likely bid sooner than phase 1. I am, though, showing that as yellow, as I expect we'll see some cost increase there with some unique constructability challenges there in the narrow corridor that we have to work with along the Military Ridge bike path and along the highway, and some unique soil conditions that we're grappling with there. So the last one listed under interceptors is actually 2 projects along the West Interceptor near University in the UW campus. So we will start working on that later this year. The last project listed is some variable frequency drives at pumping station 2, and we will soon be soliciting for consultant help to work on that one. All right, next slide, please. All right, so here's a map with ongoing construction projects. So at the treatment plant, there's 5 projects. So you can see those shown in blue kind of stacked all on top of each other. For interceptors, you might notice compared with the map I was pulling up last year, we have finished many of the projects that we had been working on interceptors, but the one that remains is that's ongoing is the Lower Badger Mill Creek Interceptor Phase 6. That's shown in purple over to the west in Verona. And then the green ones are all pumping station and force main projects. There's 4 of those ongoing, but you'll see it's a little confusing because there's the small 4 are actually one project. So there's 4 projects, and then one of those projects is at 4 of the pumping stations. So that's why there's a whole bunch of green circles there. It's a little hard to figure out how to show that. So the smaller green circles are for the pumping station bar screen project that's happening at 4 stations, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit during the project highlights. And then the other pumping stations that are shown down to the southwest in Verona is pumping station 17 capacity project. So I'm going to talk about that briefly a little bit too. And then there's a large green circle right on the isthmus. That's the crosstown force main project. It's a valve replacement project. And then the last green circle at the east end of Lake Monona, that's at pumping station 10. And we have an ongoing project there to repair where the force main enters the station. And also working on some evaluating the condition of that force main. So that's ongoing construction projects. And I'm going to talk, next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about some details on some of those things. So All right, so at the treatment plant, as noted, there's 5 projects ongoing. So for the W4 project, we had a pre-construction meeting last week, and anticipated work on that system is going to be starting in the spring after some of the equipment arrives. The Lagoon Dikes improvement, I am showing that in italics as it's newly moved from design into construction. That's currently out for bid. We anticipate awarding that in February. The flow splitter improvement, I'm showing that as yellow. We have had some contractor delays on that project, but we are anticipating substantial completion very soon. And then we will have final completion in the spring. The electrical equipment service replacement is moving along. Some of the major electrical equipment, which is the switchgear, that's expected at the plant in late February, and that's kind of a linchpin thing for that project. So once that shows up, there's going to be a lot of activity with that project and coordination also with MG&E. The pictures to the right are on the slide are from that project. We're putting some conduit in there in the top picture, and then the bottom picture is the new electrical building that is now the roof is complete on there, but that's when they were putting the roof on that building. So that will house some of that major electrical equipment that I was talking about. Okay, for the sludge thickeners, also listed under treatment plant up there, that equipment is now on site. We're expecting construction starting up here on site in March or maybe late February. Okay, so on the interceptors, as noted, the only ongoing project is Lower Badger Mill Creek Interceptor Phase 6, and I'm going to provide a little bit of an update on that in a couple slides. That one I'm showing yellow just because of the ongoing legal activity associated with that one. On to pumping stations and force mains. So the first listed there is work at pumping station 10 force main that I discussed a minute ago, working at a leak at the wall into the station. So the contractor is mobilized to the site. We're beginning working on that. Pumping station bar screens is in italics. So again, that's newly moved here to construction. That's currently bidding. So you should see award for that coming up soon. The Crosstown Force Main Air Release Valve Project, that's in italics, also newly into construction. So you might recall that that was awarded at the January 15th commission meeting. And then last but not least is the Pumping Station 17 firm capacity project. So I'll have a quick update on that in a few slides. All right, next slide, please. Okay, switching gears now to major projects completed in 2025. And remember, italics means that it's sort of updated or, moved to this category since my last update. So in 2025, listing here 8 projects completed. Note that one of these is a facility plan, the heat and power. That's not a construction project, but that's finishing the facility plan up. I think we've got a hearing for that later today. And then a few are noted here as substantially complete. There's a little wrap up happening, but the improvements that were constructed are able to be in service for the district now. So as noted, I won't go through all these, but they barely fit on the slide. So you can see we had a very busy year last year completing all these projects. All right, next slide, please. And then for 2025 bids, so these are all the major projects we bid last year. There's also a whole bunch of maintenance type projects that aren't listed here. But between all these projects, that's a total, just the ones listed here, that's a total of about $9 million in new construction contracts. And then when I come back and do my next update, I'll start to kind of track, bids throughout the year in 2026, but not very interesting to do that in January because we've bid very little to date. So I will provide updates as the year goes through on bids received. All right, next slide, please. All right, on to a couple project highlights. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. First, the suite of Pumping Station 17 projects, and then second, I'll talk more about the Pumping Station bar screen project. All right, so for the Pumping Station 17 projects, just a reminder that we began planning for a larger service area for Pumping Station 17 in Verona in the early 2000s. due to rapid development in the area. So this is an old slide you've seen before, probably many times, but it's a recap that kind of shows the increased service area. And it's also a review that in order to continue to service that increased area, we've been working on 3 related projects for a number of years. So first is getting flow to the station. So that's completing the lower Badger Mill Creek interceptor. And second is the upgrades at pumping station 17 itself to handle those higher flows. That's an ongoing construction project right now. And then third is the relief force main to carry the additional flow away from the station. So you might recall that was completed in 2 phases, and now both of those are completed. So now the race is on between whether the station will get done first or the interceptor will get done first. But both of those are going to get completed in 2026. So we may or may not have a friendly wager going on in the engineering department about which will get done first. And we as a department will be definitely having a little celebration when all these projects get completed. All right, next slide. So for the interceptor, the lower Badger Mill Creek interceptor, this is an old slide too that you've already seen before, probably many times, but just a reminder that this interceptor has been built in many pieces over the years, but now we are building the very last piece, phase 6, up by the blue arrow. Next slide, please. All right, so where are things with phase 6? So you can see on the aerial photo on the slide, the extents, and sort of down to the south is Shady Oak Road, and then up to the north is Midtown Road. So the pipe has been installed on the yellow portions, with the pink portion sort of yet to go. So Shady Oak Road down to the south was able to be repaved last fall. And we were able to install the pipe all the way through the ravine section in the late fall and early winter. So that is good news. We do still need to complete that restoration through there because winter set in right when we were hoping to get to that. So we hope to get a weather window yet this winter to complete that. You might recall that we had some concerns about private wells and karst geology for this project. So I'm happy to report that to date that those have not been significant issues during construction. So that's also good news. We do have some ongoing legal activity with that project. So you might recall there's 2 landowners that have 2 lawsuits each regarding that project. So all those 4 trial dates have now been set through 2026. So that's moving forward. We don't expect to have resolution on all of those legal items until late in 2026. All right, next slide, please. And then on to the actual pumping station project. So that project is now moving along well after some long equipment delays. There'll be a lot of activity happening there in the early part of this year. The first new pump is in service. The second is going to be in service soon, likely trial period in February. So in general, that project's about 70% complete, and we expect it to be substantially complete next summer. All right, next slide, please. Then the last project that I wanted to give you a quick update on is the pumping station bar screen project, which is currently out for bid. So this project involves installing traveling rake screens at 4 stations that are just upstream of the plant. So those are pumping station 2, that's by Monona Bay in Brittingham Park, pumping station 8 along Winger Creek near Fish Hatchery Road, pumping station 7 in Monona, which is on the Yahara River, and pumping station 11 on Clayton Road, which is just south of the plant. So you might recall we do not have coarse screening equipment at Headworks. So the purpose of this project is really to install screening equipment at the upstream pumping stations to protect Headworks. You can kind of see what that equipment looks like on the slide here. So there's a bar rack with a traveling mechanism that cleans material off of it. And then the screenings go into a compactor to a dumpster. We long ago in the past used to have manual racks in these stations, but it was very labor intensive and not very safe to clean those. And so they were removed. So this will put screening equipment back in, but it'll be an automated system that will be safer and work better. We currently have a similar automated system at pumping station 18, which works very well. With this, there needs to be some associated HVAC, electrical and controls and structural modifications to accommodate this equipment. So that is what that project is. I just wanted to give you a quick reminder of what it is. You should see an item to award the construction contract for that, hopefully in February. All right, next slide, please. And that is what I have for today. So I'm happy to take any questions that you might have at this point.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Anybody have any questions? I don't see anybody. Okay, so we'll move on to the committee reports, the performance committee for the executive director. Ezra?
I think today I'll just mention that we're moving through our process with the consultant MGT, who we brought on to help with relooking at our policy and process for annual review of the executive director. So we keep having regular meetings with them. At some point, I'm not ready with it today, but at some point I'll be able to come back to the commission with a bit of a report. I think everybody had a chance to talk to staff from MGT about their views on executive director performance review. And so I think we'll bring back a bit of a summary of kind of what they heard from everyone they talked with, both commission and staff level. So we'll have that one of the next couple of meetings just for interest for everybody here. But otherwise, we keep moving through that process and on track to have something back later in spring. So we're looking forward to that and having a good working relationship with MGT and everybody on staff that's part of that process. That's it for the ED review subcommittee.
Okay, thanks, Ezra. Anybody have any questions? Nope. Okay, Greg, you're up.
Yep, Finance Committee met on Monday, and we will not meet again until March 9th. But in that intervening month and a half, we have a lot of work for district staff, the new financial manager to do. We provided some, I'll say, thoughts on the KPI, the financial KPIs, and had some additional questions that were Seth presented last time at the commission meeting. We asked for two other things. One, at our March meeting, we asked for a memo about how we would manage what I would call our probably the wrong word, but the petty cash, right? We have money that we keep in basically a zero interest or very, very low interest, and we asked for a better way to do that to gain interest. And we also asked the financial manager to look at our commission policy book with regard to the financial part and give a recommendation on what the financial committee should work on next, if anything. So that's it.
Hey, thank you. Any questions? See none. We'll move on to operations report. Alan?
Good morning, Commissioners. Alan Grooms, Director of Operations and Maintenance for Madison Metropolitan. And I'll be presenting the operations report. So, maybe. There we go. These are the normal metrics we're kind of used to looking at. So the dashboard style metrics is what we've kind of aligned on. Parameters here were really good, right down kind of the center of the historical ranges. Just a reminder that shaded portion is the 3-year average around the standard deviation around the 3-year average. So about 2/3, I think it's 68% actually, of the value should fall within that shaded portion. So to total suspended solids, 4.3, well below our 60 milligram per liter limit. Really everything here, chloride is just a touch above our normal value for this time of year. That's been pushed down as a result of some of the efforts, pollution prevention, and that team have done in ecosystems to make inroads on that and education, that sort of thing. So 395 is a little bit just a touch outside the 3-year range on that, but not anywhere close to our actual number here at 465. The change I will point out is in the phosphorus metric. So we're showing a 0.31 milligram per liter value here. The December value was actually lower, but when we talked about a couple months ago, we had a report and we talked about the nuances on some of these permit values. And so for the phosphorus value, our permit value is, we've got a monthly limit of 1, but we run also on a 0.6 milligram per liter on a 6-month rolling average. So it's the average, and it's a defined, not a rolling average. It's defined from, in this case, November to April, and then from May to October. So those are the 6 months periods that roll up, and we report that twice a year. So that's actually the value we currently have. That's expected that will go to 0.5 on the next permit when that issues. So it was requested that we change this to reflect the 6-month average we're actually at. So this is showing where we're actually averaging for the period that's November, December. We were a little bit higher than this in December, and then 0.31. I think we were at 0.28 for January. So actually, I'm misspeaking there, November and December. So we haven't got the January numbers in yet. So any questions on that? And I don't need it today, but if there's feedback on how we can best present this to be clear on this phosphorus number, areas for improvement, please feel free to pass those along or let me know. Okay. Moving on to, and at this point with the December meeting, these are the 2025 metrics. So clean water, that's what we discharge the environment as treated effluent. That 14.7 billion gallons through the years, kind of right in line with the last 3 years, a little lower than 2024. I think we had some higher rainfall events in 2025, but overall it was generally a little bit lower. Biogas usage is again right in line at 313 million cubic feet produced. And then the reused effluent, that's our W4 that we reuse instead of city water, 295.4. So a little higher than we had been. That was due to some of the heat, some of the cooling demands in some areas of the plant. So any questions on this particular metric, dashboard metric? Okay. Next metric for the Metrogo cake through the year, we didn't change anything on that. We are looking to probably run centrifuge next month, but this reflects what we produce as a Class A cake biosolid. So estimated 620 cubic yards produced for the year. Struvite numbers have been trending up slightly through the year, 617.3 tons shipped off to various users around the country. And then Metrogo, this is what we're actually sending to the Metrogo tank. So this number deviates slightly from what goes out to the fields, usually by within a couple million gallons, depending on haul-out contracts and timing and that sort of thing. So this reflects what we've sent to the storage tanks, whereas you occasionally see metrics on how Metrogo hauled out. That's what they actually took to the field. So this year we did pretty good about getting the tanks fairly empty. So, but they're never completely empty. So that's if you ever notice a slight deviation in those numbers, that's where that comes from. So, any questions on this?
One quick question from Commissioner Meyer here.
Go ahead, Ezra.
It might not be a fair one, Alan, but the 617 tons of struvite, do you have a rough sense of the revenue that brought us in 2025?
I don't off the top of my head. If I had a few minutes with the calculator, I could probably come up with it. But generally, those are, we make about, and I think it's around $450 per ton. So that's a rough number. It might be a little bit higher than that for this year. So I guess that's a long way of saying no, I don't have that answer off the top of my head, but I could get that to you, Commissioner Meyer.
I think it's just interesting for us on the, at the commission that's the so what, it's part of the so what of struvite, right? There's a lot of other important ways it keeps the process in the machinery clean and all that, but it's also a revenue generator, so it just ought to be interesting. If you could loop it back by an email or something, that'd be great.
Okay. I can bring that to a future meeting.
Sure.
Or have that figure handy if you're curious. So I'll provide an update on that.
Thanks.
All right. Then, Commissioner Freeze.
Yep. Alan, I just have one question, and I'm pretty sure you answered this before, but with your grade A cake, who's our end user for that? Who ends up taking that?
For a Class A cake, we've got I believe there's two that farmers that have taken that generally to do that. They take it as we produce it, they'll take it and distribute that. So they'll do a haul out to that. I don't have the names of the specific farms that do that, but there are a couple that do take it, and I don't know that I would classify it as precisely a preference for that at this point, but it's something that they will take and use. So,
okay, all right. I was just curious where that was ending up going.
Yeah, it's taken locally. It's within hauling distance, and I think they like it a little bit because they can take it a little. They can hold it and use it as needed versus on our schedule for when we're ready to haul out. The other part of that is with the being Class A, that it opens up some other possibilities for them to use. And I have one more slide here.
I got a question on that. Can Class A be used for vegetable growing?
It can. Class A biosolids can be used to contact with food crops. It is.
Okay.
And I've done that with my own garden in the past. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Not from the district, as I think about it. It was a previous employment. So. I'm going to wrong button. I've got a bonus slide here. I wish it was good news. I wish it was a Christmas surprise, but as you can see from this, we had a treatment facility overflow on the morning of December 25th. So we had a inadequately secured side hatch on digester 9, and we were bringing that back online. So the operators saw that it was starting to leak out of there as that level got past that on that morning. They immediately stopped that, got the leak stopped, got the spill contained. We did a call out, had crews come in on Christmas morning. They quickly cleaned up and contained, got everything sucked up and the ground cleaned up. None of this reached the waterway or made it outside the fence. The location is on the bottom graphic. There's a triangle there. Kind of indicates there between the digester and the flare. That's where that hatch is located. So if it hadn't been discovered, if it happened where it's located, it's possible that we could have had get a little farther. But the operators are pretty attentive to it, and the crews were very quick to respond on that. So as you can see, we discovered it at 9:30 a.m. and it was cleaned up, and crews were back off site by 1:30 same day. So that's pretty good response time. We made our reports to DNR. The next day, they did come in, take a look at that, inspected the hatch, opened it up, inspected the hatch, resealed it, verified that, and we've got the digester back online with no further incidents. So I don't know if there's any questions or comments on this. I'd like to come with better news, but it happens. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Appreciate it. Vanessa.
Good morning, Commissioners. Vanessa Wishart, Legal Counsel for the District. Just a couple notes for you this morning. So over the last month, our legal work for the district focused largely on continued work with district staff on the WPDS permit comments. And as Marty presented at the last meeting, the DNR held the permit hearing on just this last Tuesday. It was very short, no oral comments received, but the district is finalizing its written comments to submit in response to the draft permit, and we're helping with that. And then we also worked on the response brief for the Badger Mill Creek City of Verona litigation. That was originally due in mid-January, but at the kind of last minute, the Department of Justice asked for an extension on the timeline to file its response brief, and because we are aligned with DOJ on scheduling, ours also got pushed. So we'll be filing the brief on February 17th, but it's largely done, which is great news for everybody. And then I wanted to do one update too. There was no legal report this month or this week in your packet, but just so you know, and we'll have more on this in the next legal report for the next meeting. But there was, I've talked previously about some of the PFAS bills that have been introduced at the state legislature. There was a substitute amendment presented for the bill that it's kind of the large bill that does a municipal grant program, but also provides some liability exemptions for land application of PFAS or of biosolids that may contain PFAS and other kinds of materials. This was a similar bill to what was vetoed by the governor in the last session. There was a substitute amendment presented with a hearing on January 21st. And I think the goal is to get to a compromise position on the liability exemptions for the remediation redevelopment program so that it would be a bill that the governor can support. And so more to come on that, but I think the legislature is kind of moving in the direction of hopefully having something that can be acceptable to both sides. So again, we'll have more in the next regulatory report on that. And then I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thanks, Vanessa. Anybody have any questions? Nope, seeing none. Okay. That will take us to future meeting schedule. Excuse me, that's in the packet. Just a reminder, if you're going to be gone for a meeting, let staff know so you can add your name on, or if you're going to be attending virtually as well, that helps. And any future agenda topics? And Ken's all ready to go to adjournment, but we have any other business? None? Okay, Ken?
Commissioner Clark, motion to adjourn.
Second, Commissioner Freeze.
Motion by Commissioner Clark, second by Commissioner Freeze. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, everybody.